and Frog Bayou locks. So what we're doing here is something that was in the works, trying to get done in a timely manner. We've ran into a lot of issues over the past couple of years, but we feel like as time goes on, we'll get it done permanently. I want to recognize our sheriffs of both Ascension Parish, Sheriff Wiley, and Iberville, Sheriff Stassy, that when we do something, these are the guys that's got to go out there and monitor it and make sure nobody gets hurt on the outside of what we're doing. And they're in very good communication. They've always worked good together. So public safety is first, and we're going to try to get this done for us. Thank you.
Hold on one second.
Hold on. Okay. Excuse me. I don't want to take over the show. Thank you. I certainly agree, and I want to thank the Ascension Parish officials for including Iberville on this. This is a team joint effort, and I certainly appreciate the officials working together and taking an aggressive approach. As Mr. Kluwat says, if we would wait to open up the locks to this water proceeds over here, we take an aggressive approach to get the water out of our people's homes. So again, I certainly want to thank the officials from Ascension Parish and the engineers team, Mr. Rue, President Matassa, for us working together to get this done. One day the sun's going to shine on Louisiana again. To be a little patient, and thank you for this joint effort here.
And Mitch, if you don't mind mentioning that one other thing, you got the prison and all that you guys been working with for several days, trying to. Y'all made some great efforts on that.
I really need to thank Secretary of the Department of Corrections, Mr. Jimmy LeBlanc, and Warden Hooper for their efforts. Thousands and thousands of sandbags that they have made. They were flying over from Hunt and St. Gabriel, and I can't appreciate, without them, this never could have slowed this water. Currently, right now, we are bagging Manchac from Bow Paul Road, headed towards the locks to slow this water down. The Cumberland Over Road right now, it is continuing to cross over the road at a slower rate. And then we're going to see some recession in this water to go down, so that cut can be made to start letting this water out of this basin to give relief both to Iberville and Ascension at the same time. So again, thank y'all for all y'all spirit of cooperation. I have my council chairman. He's really worked his. Council chairman, my councilman from over here on East Iberville. He's really been working his tail off. And I want to recognize that Sheriff Stass and my Department of my Director of Operations, Mr. McGlasher, and we have State Representative Chad Brown. You want to say anything, Chad Brown?
I really just want to thank President Matassa and President Uso and their staff. They've been over here since Sunday, doing everything that they can. It goes back to what the director was saying earlier. Spanish Lake is a reservoir that takes all this water when it comes over Manchac, and the only way to get that water out of there is to find a way to get the water out, because the water is backing up onto the homes in Bayou Paul and on the Ascension side, and the only way is to get that water back out. And if we don't take some measures to get that water out, it's going to stay there. And so I want to thank them for including us and looking out for both parishes. So thank y'all.
You're welcome.
Real quick, Bart Morgan, Chairman of Iberville, get up there, bro, because I know you were up to your neck.
Yeah, up to neck in water and
trying to unstop
steel in there.
Culvert and things like that. So you've been in the middle of the water.
I'd like to thank everyone that put in the effort, especially all the volunteers out there. There's a lot of them. They do not get the recognition they deserve, and they're not behind this mic. They're still out there fighting the water. And I'd just like to thank them. And we're going to get the water out of there.
Thank you. I don't know if we were up for any questions. And I may not be the right guy for it, but I see we got some questions. Yes, Mr. Mitchell.
Yes.
Morning Advocate.
Well, we focus on the Bluff Road area, but this is also going to help the Bayou Paul area.
Yes.
Is it also going to be flooding around Lane Hunt? Is that part of what this is?
Yes, and what we hear from the St. Gabriel guys, and they may want to speak on that. Mark? Might be the guy to answer that.
Mark, can you give us your full name?
Mark McGlasher, MIGLIACIO.
So is this the part to help the Lane? We know
What?
Lane Hunt was getting flooding.
We're sure. What this will do, will take water from the whole basin area. This cut and these pumps will be put at the lowest point, and it will take all the water from Bayou Paul, from the Hunts, from the women's prison, and from Bluff Road and
where it's at in Ascension. But this will help the whole Spanish Lake Basin.
So the prison is currently flooded, correct?
Well, the women's prison has been evacuated, and the Hunts is not evacuated yet, holding its own, but it does have water that has creeped up to it, but they are holding its own, and that's one of the main reasons we need to get this, so people can get this water off their homes, and we can get the women's prison back operating so they can bring those prisoners back in.
When will the controlled cut happen?
The control cut's going to happen once Manchac is 2 foot off the road.
How high will that be on a gauge? How many feet is that, do you know?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. We wasn't prepared for all the questions. I'm not the guy to answer all the questions. Thank you.
Bill should should answer that question on what.
So, where is the level of Manchac relative to the road right now? Level with the road?
No, it's coming over the road. But what we have done, doing today, was bring in bags to slow that process down. Now, once we stop one spot where it comes over the road, 2 hours later it goes to another spot. So it's a continuous thing, and from sandbags from Iberville and sandbags from the prison. While the prisoners are out there, and we trying to get this thing slowed down best we can.
Still overtopping the road.
Yes, sir. As we speak,
This may not happen till tomorrow. It all depends on Mother Nature. If it goes
it is still
down.
overtopping the road. But I'd like to also say there was never a breach on the road. There was never a break. It was just an overtopping since Sunday night.
And that's why the basin has all this water.
Yes, sir. The overtopping of Manchac Bayou over Manchac Road.
Backed up into the basin. Thank you, man.
Have homes in Bayou Paul flooded?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, man.
Can you tell us where the Frog Bayou locks are? What kind of relation to Alligator Bayou?
The locks are probably 300 yards apart, 500 yards apart. I mean, you can stand on one and see the other.
The main issue is the fact that the basin is enormous.
All right, we were trying to get some answers there on exactly where those Frog Bayou locks are. I don't think the last gentleman there quite understood the question there, but we do know at least the area in which they're involved. They talked about making and anytime you start in South Louisiana talking about cutting into a levee or at least a flood protection area, people get a little nervous. They talked about making a 70-foot cut in the levee at Alligator Bayou Road at the Frog Bayou locks. It's the same. The levee and the road is one and the same as the Alligator Bayou Road turns into Manchac Road. And they talked about that there was no exact break in the road or levee, but that the water had already started overtopping. Let's bring in Steve Caparata now. He is here with us, trying to make some sense of this situation. And Steve, for the viewers back home, this used to be a levee. It was gravel, then they blacktopped it, so it became a road in one. So now it's all one whole big thing, and that they're going to try to work it in. So we got people on both sides a little confused, but also worried.
Yeah, it's not uncommon in our part of the world to use a road as a levee, basically a dual function sort of thing, and that's what Alligator Bayou Road is. We're going to step you through this a little bit with a couple of maps and try not to bog you down too much, but just to get your bearings here, here's East Baton Rouge Parish, downtown Baton Rouge, Ascension, and Iberville. I've drawn in with a thicker blue line. That is Bayou Manchac, and now I'm just going to step you through this. We'll get a little bit closer. You heard them talking about a couple of different things, Bluff Swamp and Spanish Lake. The names are sometimes kind of used interchangeably, but it's all of this green area south of Bayou Manchac into Ascension and Iberville parishes. And so what we've had happening, as I bring this in just a little bit closer, we've had this flooding out near Highway 30, Bayou Paul, and areas of St. Gabriel, because I'll show you here just as we get in a little bit tighter. Bayou Manchac has been so high, and Alligator Bayou is right up in here. This is this Alligator Bayou Road, I should say. This is Alligator Bayou. Here's Alligator Bayou Road. So Bayou Manchac has been just so high in recent days that water, as they said, is just spilling over the road out here into Spanish Lake and then working its way westward towards Bayou Paul and St. Gabriel. The problem that they're now talking about is that now that it's in basically this big bowl that is Spanish Lake and Bluff Swamp, There's no way for it to get out in any reasonable amount of time unless they do something to make that happen. Otherwise, it's just going to kind of sit there for a long time. Now, we can track the progress of the waters. We've got 3 gauges here near Bayou Manchac and Alligator Bayou. 2 of them are on the south side of Alligator Bayou Road, and then one's on the north side of Bayou Manchac on Bayou Manchac. What we've been watching is the gauges south of Alligator Bayou Road continue to go up. It's been slow, but they continue to go up, and that's just more evidence of what they told us, that the water is still spilling over from Bayou Manchac out into Spanish Lake. So there's still about 1.5 foot difference between the gauges on the south side of Alligator Bayou and the level of Bayou Manchac itself. I don't know the actual road elevation, but they say they're going to have to wait, obviously, for Bayou Manchac to go down, because if they made that cut right now while Bayou Manchac's up here and Spanish Lake's down here, they're just going to allow more water to come in. So Bayou Manchac needs to go down some, and then you can get the water going back they want. They want it to go back up into Bayou Manchac and it flowing back towards the Amite River. Right now, Bayou Manchac has been, the flow has been so heavy, it's flowing backwards. Usually it goes west to east. Right now it's been east to west. That's why all of that water is coming in. So the issue now is, as they kind of talked about, just kind of waiting on Bayou Manchac to go down. Then they make the cut. Then they hope that water starts to go back north and east out Bayou Manchac. Now, of course, that's going to make some people, even here in East Baton Rouge Parish, nervous along Bayou Fountain, Wards Creek, because those drain into Bayou Manchac. Will that back up? You got to think that they've coordinated this, and they wouldn't do this if there's any risk to anybody else. So we're going to work with that assumption that they wouldn't make this cut that would endanger anybody else along the way. But kind of a complex scenario, but I'll ask you, Greg, did that make some sense to you?
It did, especially the last part. When you talk about how Bayou Manchac now comes in this way, literally it's going that way. What worries me is I see Country Club of Louisiana up there, Santa Maria is up there, and if all that water is going back that way, I mean, a layperson would think,
and that's where I say you've got to think and believe that the drainage experts, the hydrologists, and some of the officials that you saw at this press conference, I can promise you they've gone through the scenarios, and you've got to think that they're confident that this won't cause any issues. Country Club Louisiana, back up towards Santa Maria, because the water will head in that direction. And then, as I said, some of the other tributaries here in East Baton Rouge Parish, Bayou Fountain, Wards Creek, that make their way into Bayou Manchac. So we're going to work under that assumption that they've certainly thought that through.
And we're going to check it. We had a reporter there at the press conference getting through the information. The only thing that scares me a little bit is that press conference was made up of Iberville officials and Ascension officials. I didn't see any East Baton Rouge Parish officials there.
Right. And, the other thing, as we're talking about this, they're talking about the Bayou Frog locks, the Alligator Bayou locks. Those are there to let water flow in and out as they choose, but the issue why they can't just use the locks simply, and they kind of glossed over this a little bit, the locks just aren't big enough to get the volume of water out that they need to right now. So they're thinking even if they open these locks up, it's not going to get the water enough going to really make a difference for these people in the Bayou Paul and St. Gabriel areas that are flooding. And I'm getting messages as we speak this afternoon, people saying the water's still climbing in these areas, and that's what the gauges are telling us as well.
And that alarm going off was Jay Grimes' cell phone. It's not an alarm, so nothing to worry about out there. The water is still rising, according to some of the residents that just checked in that live literally right at Alligator Bayou Road, and we've gotten a little bit better idea of where exactly those Frog Bayou locks are. So we'll continue to follow that. Steve's going to work together some of that, and we'll have another update coming up for you in just about 2 hours. If anything changes, though, between now and then, we'll, of course, post it on social media, but we won't be afraid to break into our programming and get you up to date. Again, what they said about making the cut, it may not even happen today because they're waiting on Bayou Manchac to go down just a little bit. We'll have a full wrap-up of this coming up in just a few hours.